Greetings, everyone. Brad here with Mild Mannered EDC, and today is a very special day. That's right, for the first time ever on YouTube, and maybe after today, the very last time on YouTube, we're going to do a Knife Bartitsu. That's right, a gentlemanly comparison of knives. Now, listen. We like to, that's sort of how we roll here on the channel, right? I mean, we like to keep things a little more even keel, a little more prim, a little more proper. That's just sort of the nature of, you know, the way we do things here on the Mild Mannered channel. Now, listen, it's not to say if you want to get out there and watch a battle to the death, get over there to Slicey Dicey. He does it better than anybody. If you want to see a battle of the blades, check out It's a Knife Style. If you want to watch somebody, you know, pull their grail knives through a sharpener he bought at Ace Hardware, you know, Pete over at Cedric and Ada, he's your man. If you want to watch Nick Shabazz, I mean, he's the Diogenes of San Diego. Go check him out. Or the Wreck-It Ralph of knife testers. That's right, my man, Advanced Knife Bro. So there's a lot of options out there. But for our purposes and for our channel here, we want to keep things, well, mild-mannered and gentlemanly. And so for that, we are using the gentlemanly form of self-defense, Bartitsu. That's sort of what all this is named after. That's the theme here for this, essentially just a generic knife comparison that they do on videos all over YouTube. But we're putting our own little flair on it here. So who are the two contenders before we get too much down that road? Who are the two contenders here in today's Knife Bartitsu? Well, we've got two American lightweights weighing in for a battle, and you know, if you clicked on this video, you probably already read the title, so you know we've got it between the Benchmade Bugout here and the Hogue Deka here. These are really interesting knives, both of them. Well, certainly the Bugout, extraordinarily popular. You know, Deka hasn't been out nearly as long, but really bringing some really competitive materials, quality, price to the market. So I thought we'd talk through these. I know this isn't the first comparison of these two knives, but I thought I'd give you the mild-mannered kind of take on that. We'll try to do it a little traditional as it relates to kind of how I might do a classic mild-manner review. We'll try to keep it, you know, blade, action, carry, handle, scales, etc. But we'll talk about some other little variations as we go along. And you know, with Bartitsu, you always have to expect the unexpected. Whether it's a little trickery or, you know, I may just shut the camera off and leave the room, or I may just leave the room and leave the camera running and see how long it takes before anybody just shuts the video off. But no, seriously. So let's go ahead and and get underway. So we've got two American-made knives here, as I mentioned, both offering some compelling features, compelling attributes, and both with their, you know, their downsides as well. So one of the themes that you'll see as we talk through these is the Deka is slightly bigger, and here's the spoiler alert, and slightly heavier. But those are all very slight, and so by and large, I think they are a natural comparison. So let's go ahead and talk some of those specs real quick and get them out of the way. So we've got a 3.24-inch blade on the Bugout. We've got a 3.25-inch blade on the Deka. Both at least stated on their websites, 0.9-inch blade thickness. Although, I don't know, tell me what you think. Boy, that Deka has a thin blade, huh? Even up where it's kind of thick by the stock. And I understand it's got that swedge and everything, but whew, that's a thin blade stock there. Handle lengths on both of these are, we've got on the Bugout 4.22 inches, 4.25 inches on the Deka. We've got handle thicknesses of 0.42 inches on the Bugout and 0.44 inches here on the Deka. And overall lengths between the two of kind of tip to tail. Put them down here so you can kind of see, of 7.46 inches on the Bugout and 7.50 inches on the Deka, with weights of 1.85 ounces here with the Bugout and 2.39 ounces here on the Deka. So you know, like I said, very, very similar as it relates to their specs. You know, certainly the Bugout edges the Deka in terms of weight. In fact, very few things can best the Bugout in that category, but by other measures, very, very similar knives. So let's go ahead and talk about their two blades. Then we'll talk, like I said, we'll talk action. Then we'll do a little bit on the handle materials, the hardware, and carry. And, you know, then we'll call this Bartitsu concluded and see who, you know, maybe there's a winner, maybe there's not. I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of what's interesting about comparisons, is it may just be a comparison. I'm not sure that, you know, one may not necessarily win, but they may offer compelling options in either category, or there could be a very distinctive winner, I think, in this. So let's go walk through that. So what do we have on these blades? We've got two blades. One's a clip point here on the Deka. We've got a traditional drop point here on the Bugout. Now, I will say the Deka offers other blade designs, so you can get, I think there's a drop point also, as well as a tanto. So, you know, interesting there. From a blade steel standpoint, they are, well, from a grind standpoint, they are both flat grinds. They both come down to very, very slicey. Let's see if I can do this. What are the odds I cut myself in this video, kind of handling these two knives like that? They come to a very thin edge. They're both extremely slicey. They both have tips that are, yeah, there you go. You know, they're not robust, but they're, you know, they're decent. They're not gonna, you know, I don't think they're gonna snap off on you or anything unless during normal use. So flat grinds. The biggest difference between the blades, they both, well, the biggest difference is the steel. Let's just get to it, right? So we've got S30V here, and these are base models, right? There's nothing sort of upgraded in any of these. So, you know, this is the S30V model, which is the base Bugout. And in the Deka, you get a 20 CV blade, CPM 20 CV right there. You can see it. And wow, that's a, you know, when we get to price, you know, you'll see why that's all the more compelling. But yeah, you know, by all accounts, 20 CV, right? Chemically pretty much the same as M390. Essentially maybe one of the best everyday carry blade steels out there. Yeah, I mean, definitely there's an edge, I think, to the Deka on that. Haha, no pun intended. And, you know, yeah, I mean, both have thumb studs. I like the placement of the thumb studs a bit more on the Bugout. They're definitely out of the slicing path there, where they are not in the Deka. I'm also, you know, we'll talk more in hardware, but I'm not sure I'm digging the black sort of, see if I can get that to, I don't know, just sort of that overall look of these particular thumb studs compared. Now, it does bother me to no end.
Now, this really pisses me off to no end.
That they can't match the blues or the oranges or whatever colors they put on here. That, I don't know why that bothers me, but it does. I know it bothers other people. So yeah, but I think these are more sort of traditional thumb studs. They feel good on your thumbs. There's nothing really wrong with the Deka's thumb studs. They're just a little on the maybe a little more catchy, and I don't know. I think the Bugout might have a leg up there. So yeah, so those are your two blades. I will say both of them have grinds done very, very well, as we noted. The choils are well done. They didn't miss anything there, so very adequate for sharpening. Yeah, attractive blades. I think I kind of prefer clip points in general, so the Deka may take a little bit of a lead there for me. Because of that, I bought this specifically, and I also think the design on this, you know, there's no real specific designer of the Bugout. With this, you know, it's an Elisha Witt's design, because that's what it says, and that's what Hogue uses. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting blade. I think it's got a definite design style to it, and it's kind of spoke to me because of that, right? You got a little jimping here on the top, whereas, you know, there's none of that present here on the top of the blade with the Bugout. So there you go for blades. Now, action. Action is an interesting one, right? So they both use the axis lock. Well, gosh, I just said that. they both use a version of the axis lock. So the Benchmade axis lock, axis being their patented term, the patent on the term is still intact, but the actual mechanism has, the patent on that has expired, and so other makers are able to utilize it in their knives, basically. And this is Hogue's version of that. They call it the Able lock, which stands for ambidextrous bar lock enhanced. Now that rolls right off the tongue. But yeah, but essentially it's exactly the same thing. Now there are some differences. In particular, Hogue claims that, well, they state that they use Wolf Omega springs, and Wolf is a company known for making robust parts for firearms, etc. So I think they're making an argument that there are springs within, and you can see the little springs in there, where there's been some negative comments about Benchmade's Omega springs, not standing out or lasting or breaking. And I'm sure that's true. I mean, I'm sure every knife, I've never had that. I've never had to replace an Omega spring, but I'm sure that's very much possible. So the actions are slightly different though, despite using a very similar mechanism. The actions are different. So in particular, the axis lock, really swingy when you've got it the bar fully pulled back there, and super drop shutty, right? The Hogue, when you pull it back, nothing happens. Now you give it a little flick and it comes right down, but it's definitely a different action. Likewise, if you hold it back here, there you go, right? I mean, so with the Bugout, you get that effect. With the Hogue, again, pulling it back, nothing happening. Now you give it a little flick, and there it is. So, I don't know. Is it the tension from the Wolf springs that's doing that? I mean, I don't know. It's just a little difference in the way that they do theirs. Now, is that good or bad? Well, I'll tell you, I think I prefer that. that classic axis lock action is pretty darn great. And I know a lot of people love that. And so it's, I'm not unique there, but it's pretty darn cool. So I like that a lot. I will say though, it also has a tendency, unfortunately, to come with some blade play. And for whatever reason, I don't know if that's their pivots or the lock or what it is, but Benchmades can be prone to a little bit of blade play. And this one occasionally does. If I keep it, Loctited up, it's usually not a problem, but there you go. And you do kind of have to fiddle with it to get just that right action. But when it's broken in, an axis lock's pretty great. Hogue, on the other hand, I mean, it fires out beautifully. I mean, there's nothing at all wrong with this action. It's a great action. It's just different than the axis lock. The Able lock just is slightly different. So something to consider. I don't know. Do you like one better than the other? Like I said, I think I kind of like the the drop shuttiness and sort of fidgetiness of the axis lock, but with the Able lock, I'll tell you this, boy, this thing is rock solid. There is no play at all. So, take it for what it's worth. But that's, those are kind of two differences there. So, something to think about when you're looking at these two knives. So let's talk handles and scales and hardware. Handles and hardware. That's another area where these two are quite different. So with the Bugout, we've got this sort of plasticky. I don't know if this is their grivery or they're just a polymer or whatever you want to call it. It gets there's a lot of play on YouTube, people going like this. Ooh, it's a super tough material. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty darn robust. I mean, I'm sure you could break it if you put enough effort into it, but by and large, I mean, I don't know. It is plastic, though. That's essentially all it is. And you kind of have to take, how robust is that? Well, I don't think this is meant to be a hard-use knife. And so it seems to work fine. And it gets you that weight. And they actually go out of the way to, if I can do this, there you can see in there. I mean, they even mill out, or the way they inject, injection mold these. Yeah, I mean, they even save weight doing some of that in there. So, that's kind of cool. Kind of hard to argue with. Now, with our friend the Deka here, we have a G10, and I believe they're all G10 in some variety. Now, one of the other different, and you certainly can get different colors and things like that, and I know there's a lot of aftermarket scales and stuff like that you can get with the Bugout, so cool. But from just a standard, and these are both standard base models, you know, this one I chose for the lava, the blue lava G10, and so it is G10, so it's going to weigh more than the plastic, and so that's why this weighs a few, you know, tenths of an ounce more than the Bugout, but it's definitely, there's no pinching that. You know, it's definitely sturdy, to say the least. Now, I also will say, unlike the Bugout, they didn't do any internal milling there. So, you know, they could have maybe done that and tried to save some weight, but, you know, it is what it is. So, like it or not, that's sort of where that's at. I think the other piece to this that I kind of, you know, I bought this because I thought it looked cool. Now, I was a little irritated when I got it because you see right there, I thought that was a defect when I first got it. And it's not, actually. It's just however they milled this, that particular spot didn't have any pigment or whatever in it. And so it's just sort of the bare G10. It bugged me when I first got it. And I thought, oh gosh, do I want to return this? And I'm just not big on returning knives, especially if there's just, unless there's something sort of functionally wrong with it. It's just not really my style. And so anyways, I've kept it. And since then I've been sort of like, it's my knife's little birthmark and it makes it my knife and that's cool, you know, whatever. But yeah, I mean, they definitely took some time. I mean, you can definitely see there's ridges and edges, and I think that the way this G10 is done is pretty cool. I think it's good looking. You may not. You know, this definitely bothers me, but, you know, whatever. So, there you go. Those are kind of the two differences there as far as the scales go. Now, hardware. Tell me if you notice something on this Deka. Yeah, look at the number of screws, for Pete's sake. So, I mean, I know these are to hold in the you know, clip spacer here, which they give you, which is cool. You know, so it's hard to argue with that. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you know, there's a ton there. I mean, there's 5 just to hold the scales and the axis bar mechanism in there. I mean, that's just a lot of screws. I don't know. I just kind of, it bugs me a little bit. I just don't know how much of that was necessary, but it is what it is. Something to think about. Where, you know, compare that to the Benchmade, where, you know, you've got screws there too. You know, and I guess arguably it's maybe one more, you know, on the Deka, but it's just the way they are spaced, or I don't know. You know, and I know people have complained about this on the Bugout. It's like, could they have done that some other way? I don't know, because it's kind of right in the middle there, but I don't know. Something to think about. Like we mentioned hardware, you know, I think the pivot, I like the look of the pivot. I like, so first of all, I like how, notice here, you've got sort of matching here and matching here as far as the kind of contours of the pillory effect. But on the Deka, they did that with all 3, which I think is pretty cool. Both on the thumb stud, the pivot, and the able lock mechanism studs there. They all kind of have this similar kind of look, and I think that's pretty neat. Whether you like that look or not, I don't know, but the fact that they took the time to kind of match that out, whereas with this, you've got, okay, they've got this, you know, it's got the some similar effects, but, you know, you got a blue that doesn't match, you've got, which does kind of bother me, and I don't know why they can't do that, but, and you've got a different, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of a bummer, I think, that, you know, it looks a little less refined, if you will. So yeah, so there you go with the hardware. And as far as clips, let's talk clips, and then that'll transition us into talking carry. So clips, I definitely give, I think, the win here to the Bugout as it relates to the clip. So, I mean, the Benchmade deep carry pocket clip is a great clip. Hard to argue with. I actually like this one in particular. Its size is perfect, I think. You know, the plastic, even though there's this texture, it still slides in and out of your pocket super easy. So it's a great clip. I really like it. Hard to argue. The Hogue, yeah, just not so much. Not only is it sort of this spoon kind of thing that they've done, it's kind of tight. It's not terrible, but it's kind of tight. it's not deep carry. It's not even attempting to be deep carry. And, you know, so this is totally nitpicky. I admit that. But, you know, we're in a Bartitsu here. We get to be, you know, whatever. You notice how the Hogue is not centered on the clip. It's sort of the writing. It's sort of off to the one side, off to this side a bit more. Yeah, that just kind of bugs me. I don't know why, but it bugs me. So there's that. Now, they are both ambidextrous. They both are tip up, left and right carry. Both of these knives, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned in general, are perfectly ambidextrous. So left-handers, right-handers, exact same experience using both these knives. So that's great. But yeah, so the clips for me, you know, I prefer the Bugout. You know, and deep carry, that's a personal preference on some level. So it's hard for me to say, oh, this isn't deep carry, so it's not as good as it, you know. No, I mean, if you don't care about deep carry, fine. I generally do. I prefer a little more concealment to my carry, but I got plenty of knives that don't have a deep carry pocket clip, so I can't say that that's a huge something I live or die with. But I just think on this one, it's just not really, and it's just not all that attractive either, unfortunately. So anyways, that's just sort of I think the clip is a miss there, but that's all right. It is what it is. Ergonomics and carry. So the ergonomics on both of these knives are quite good. I mean, you know, there's nothing, you know, the Hogue has a bit more contouring in the scales as far as, you know, how your hands kind of fit in there. I think they fit great. This, you know, is a little bit of a hot spot maybe off of that clip, but not really. I like the thumb ramp here. Feels good in the hand. You know, they're both of them. I will say, you know, I'm not a huge fan of, and I know this has been mentioned before, you know, these edges on the plastic. You can hear that. Yeah, I mean, that's, and if you kind of bear down, you definitely can feel that pinching into your skin, which I'm not a huge fan of. But on the other hand, you know, it is what it is. But I wish Benchmade would do something about that, because it wouldn't take much to just kind of round those off. But it is what it is. But both of them, but, you know, and though I will say, the fact that you've got this G10, this definitely does make this knife a bit more robust, in my view, than the Bugout. So, you know, the Deka, because of the kind of solidity of the scales and just sort of the overall feel in your hand, I feel like you could get more aggressive with this than with this. And that may be completely untrue, but that's just sort of how I feel. So there you go. So, you know, that's how they carry. We talked pocket clip wise. They both carry fine, and they're both lightweight. This one, a little harder to get into the pocket because of that material, as I mentioned, or the kind of G10 that's grooved and stuff, and the way this is a little bit tight. But there you go. So let's talk price. So we've got, generally speaking, you know, 120 to 130, 125 to 135. That seems to be a pretty average price for a Benchmade Bugout. You know, I think I got this one on sale at Christmas for 99 bucks, which I think flat out is the price this knife should be. I think this is a $99 knife. It's a great knife, fantastic knife, S30V, plastic handle. Yeah, it's a $100 knife. No problem there. 130, a little less so. Just my opinion, but that's where it's at. So I think, yeah, I'd like to see that $100 be the more common price for this knife. But it sells like crazy, so, you know, what do I know? This particular knife is about $140, $139, $140, $141, depending on where you see it. But it does come in different variations. But what I'll say for the 140, and again, if we're talking 130, 125, 135 for this, you're talking $5, $10 more. You're getting 20 CV as opposed to S30V. You're getting definitely a different look in the handle, a bit more robustness overall. Definitely a miss on the clip, but, you know, whatever. Wow, for two American-made knives, you know, this is bringing some serious heat in the value department. And Hogue in general, you know, whether it's their microflip or the Doug Ritter, or, I mean, just they really are bringing good materials at good prices, U.S.-made knives. Ooh, 140 bucks. Wow. I have to say, might be one of the best deals of any. Well, and I kind of feel that about the Doug Ritter RSK as well. I mean, they both are just really compelling knives for the money, and this one's a little less than even that model. And I like the blade better on this one. So yeah, so there you go on price. I mean, I think overall I give it to the Deka on price because I think this is overpriced generally, and I think the materials warrant a higher price than what they are selling. I mean, just from the market standpoint, than what they're selling these for. So there you go. So these are the two knives. So what are my, I mean, we're 25 minutes into this video. Good grief. I mean, what do I come down to? I think these are very similar knives, but I think they're a little bit different too, in the sense that, are they definitely gunning for each other, or is this definitely gunning for the Bugout? I mean, the Bugout was here long before. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's certainly what they're doing. This is definitely a design knife, and you can tell it has, in the sense of, it's got that sort of quirkiness that comes from a designer that has a style and aesthetic. This is more of a standard traditional pocket knife look. So it is what it is. But do I prefer one or the other? It's really hard. I've been thinking about it a long time. I don't know. I think in the end, I wish I could get this blade kind of on here, because I think overall, I think I do prefer the lightness and the pocket clip that I can get here. But boy, I love this blade. I definitely like the blade better on the Hogue. I'm just not, I don't know. That's kind of where I'd blend the two. And then I'd find a knife that I'd really like. I know that's kind of a cop-out, but that's where it is. So that's where I stand with these two. I'd love to hear what you all think. Do you like or own either of these knives? Dislike or own either, or not own either of these knives? Are they a good comparison? Does it make sense for them to have a Mild Mannered Bartitsu? And where do we go from there? So thank you if you stuck around for this video. I know it was a long one, but I think it was warranted, because I think these are two interesting knives, and they deserve, to be talked about. And ultimately, and most importantly, be safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another. Wash your hands. Practice social distancing. Be safe. All the best.